Every Soviet and Russian tank ever made. The MS-1, Mali Soprovozhdenia, small escort, was the Soviet Union's first domestically designed and produced tank, entering service in 1928. Weighing approximately 5.3 tons, this light tank featured a crew of 2 and was armed with a 37mm gun, plus a machine gun. Based partly on the French Renault FT design, the MS-1 represented a crucial step toward Soviet tank independence. It saw limited combat during the 1929 Sino-to-Soviet conflict and remained in service through the early 1930s. Though quickly superseded by more advanced designs like the T-26, the MS-1 laid essential groundwork for Soviet armored vehicle development and established domestic production capabilities. The T-27 was a light tankette that entered Soviet service in 1931, based on the British Carton Lloyd design. Weighing just 2.7 tons with a 2-man crew, it was armed only with a single 7.62 mm machine gun. Despite its minimal armament and thin armor, over 3,000 units were produced, making it one of the most numerous Soviet armored vehicles of the early 1930s. The T-27 served primarily in reconnaissance and infantry support roles during the Spanish Civil War and early World War II operations. Its limited combat effectiveness led to quick obsolescence, but it provided valuable experience in mass tank production techniques for the expanding Soviet armored forces. The T-26 light tank, introduced in 1931, became the Soviet Union's most numerous armored vehicle before World War II, with over 11,000 produced. Based on the British Vickers 6-ton design, it featured a crew of 3 and was armed with a 45mm gun in later variants. Weighing approximately 10 tons with relatively thin armor, the T-26 saw extensive combat in the Spanish Civil War, conflicts with Japan, the Winter War against Finland, and the early stages of Operation Barbarossa. Though outmatched by German panzers in 1941, the T-26 provided crucial experience and established manufacturing infrastructure that would prove invaluable for subsequent Soviet tank development. The T-37A, 1933, and its successor T-38, 1936, were light amphibious tankettes designed for reconnaissance and infantry support. The T-37A, inspired by British designs, weighed 3.2 tons with a 2-man crew and single 7.62 mm machine gun. Both utilized propeller propulsion for water crossings, though this capability proved unreliable in combat. Over 4,000 combined units were produced. They saw action in the Winter War, Khalkhin Gol, and early World War II operations. Their thin armor and light armament made them vulnerable, leading to heavy losses in 1941. They were eventually replaced by the more capable T-40 Amphibious tank. The BT-2 Bystrokhodny tank, fast tank, entered Soviet service in 1932, marking a revolutionary approach to armored warfare. Based on American designer J. Walter Christie's suspension system, it featured a unique convertible drive allowing operation on wheels or tracks, achieving remarkable speeds up to 72 km per hour on roads. Weighing 11 tons with a 3-man crew, it was armed with 2 7.62 mm machine guns. Approximately 620 units were produced before improvements led to the BT-5. The BT-2 saw limited combat in Spain and against Japan. Its Christie suspension would profoundly influence Soviet tank design, ultimately leading to the legendary T-34 medium tank. The BT-5 entered Soviet service in 1933 as an improved version of the BT-2, retaining the Christie suspension's exceptional speed while adding a new cylindrical turret armed with a 45mm gun and coaxial machine gun. Weighing approximately 11.5 tons with a 3-man crew, it could reach speeds of 72 km per hour on wheels. Around 2,100 units were produced between 1933 to 1936 against Japanese forces at Lake Khasan and Khalkhin Gol, and during the Winter War with Finland. Its combination of speed and adequate firepower made it effective in mobile operations, though thin armor remained a vulnerability against anti-tank weapons. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. The BT-7, introduced in 1935, represented the pinnacle of Soviet fast tank development before World War II. Weighing 13.8 tons with improved armor and a more powerful engine, it maintained the Christie suspension's exceptional mobility while mounting a 45mm gun. Over 5,300 units were produced through 1940, making it one of the most numerous Soviet tanks of the pre-war period. The BT-7 saw extensive combat in the Spanish Civil War, Khalkhin Gol, Winter War, and early World War II battles. Later variants included the BT-7 Millions with a diesel engine. Its speed and lessons learned directly influenced the development of the revolutionary T-34 medium tank. The BT-7 Millions, also designated BT-8, entered production in 1938 as the final and most advanced variant of the BT series. Its key innovation was the V2 diesel engine, offering improved fuel efficiency, reduced fire risk, and greater operational range compared to gasoline engines. This power plant would become standard for future Soviet tank designs. Weighing approximately 14.6 tons, it retained the 45mm gun and Christie suspension mobility. Around 780 units were produced before production shifted to the T-34. The BT-7 Millions saw action during the Winter War and early stages of Operation Bar. Its diesel engine proved revolutionary, directly contributing to the T-34's legendary reliability and survivability in combat. The T-12 was an experimental Soviet heavy tank developed in 1930, representing an early attempt to create a multi-turreted breakthrough vehicle. Weighing approximately 19 tons, it featured an unconventional design with multiple turrets armed with a 37mm main gun and several machine guns. Only a prototype was completed, as the design proved mechanically unreliable and overly complex. The T-12's poor mobility, mechanical problems, and questionable combat effectiveness led to its rejection for mass production. However, this experimental vehicle provided valuable lessons for Soviet tank designers, influencing the development of subsequent multi-turreted heavy tanks like the T-35, and contributing to the evolution of Soviet armored warfare doctrine. The T-24 medium tank entered limited Soviet service in 1931 as an attempt to create a more powerful successor to the MS-1. Weighing approximately 18.5 tons with a crew of 5, it featured a 3-turret configuration with a 45mm main gun and multiple machine guns. Despite its innovative design for the ERA, the T-24 suffered from severe mechanical unreliability, poor ergonomics, and manufacturing difficulties. Only about 25 units were produced before the project was abandoned in favor of the more successful T-26. Though a failure, the T-24 provided crucial lessons about tank design complexity and reliability, influencing future Soviet armored vehicle development priorities. The T-28 medium tank entered Soviet service in 1933, designed for breakthrough operations against fortified positions. Weighing approximately 28 tons with a crew of 6, it featured a distinctive multi-turret design, with a main turret housing a 76.2mm gun and 2 smaller forward turrets with machine guns. Around 500 units were produced through 1940. The T-28 saw combat during the Winter War against Finland, where it proved effective against the Mannerheim Line fortifications, and in the early stages of World War II. Despite its impressive firepower and reasonable armor for its time, the complex multi-turret design proved difficult to maintain and vulnerable to modern anti-tank weapons. The T-35 heavy tank, produced from 1933 to 1939, represented the Soviet Union's most ambitious multi-turret design. Weighing 45 tons with an 11-man crew, it featured 5 turrets, 1 main turret with a 76.2mm gun, 2 medium turrets with 45mm guns, and 2 machine gun turrets. Only 61 units were built. While impressive in parades, the T-35 proved mechanically unreliable and difficult to coordinate in combat. Most were lost to breakdowns, rather than enemy fire during the 1941 German invasion. Despite its impracticality, the T-35 symbolized Soviet industrial ambition and provided lessons about design complexity versus battlefield effectiveness that influenced future development. The T-40 Amphibious light tank entered service in 1940 as a replacement for the outdated T-37A and T-38. Weighing 5.5 tons with a two-man crew, it was armed with a 12.7mm DSHK heavy machine gun and a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun. The T-40 featured improved armor and better automotive performance than its predecessors, with propeller-driven amphibious capability. Approximately 700 units were produced before the German invasion prompted a shift to the simpler, land-only T-60. The T-40 saw limited combat in 1941, where its light armament proved inadequate against German tanks. Its amphibious features were sacrificed for increased armor protection in subsequent designs. The T-60 light tank entered mass production in 1941 as an emergency measure during the desperate early months of the German invasion. Weighing only 6 tons with a two-man crew, it was armed with a 20mm TNH autocannon and a coaxial machine gun. Designed for rapid production using automobile components, over 6,000 units were manufactured through 1942. The T-60's thin armament made it vulnerable to German anti-tank weapons, but its small size and automotive industry-based production freed up heavy industry for medium tanks. Despite limitations, the T-60 provided mobile firepower when the Red Army desperately needed any armored vehicles available. The T-70 light tank replaced the T-60 in 1942, offering better armor protection and firepower. Weighing 9.2 tons with a two-man crew, it mounted a 45mm gun in a larger turret, providing significantly improved anti-tank capability. Approximately 8,200 units were produced through 1943. The T-70 featured twin-gas 202 engines providing adequate mobility, and its sloped armor offered better protection than the T-60. However, the two-man crew was overworked, with the commander handling gunnery, loading, and tactical decisions simultaneously. While superior to earlier light tanks, the T-70 remained vulnerable to German medium tanks and was gradually withdrawn as T-34 production increased, though its chassis continued in self-propelled gun variants. The T-34 medium tank, introduced in 1940, revolutionized armored warfare and became arguably World War II's most influential tank. Weighing 26 tons with a four-man crew, it featured a 76.2mm gun, innovative sloped armor providing excellent protection, wide tracks for superior mobility, and a reliable diesel engine. The T-34's combination of firepower, protection, and mobility shocked German forces in 1941. Over 35,000 T-34, 76 variants were produced. Its simple, robust design allowed mass production and field repairs under harsh conditions. The T-34's sloped armor concept influenced post-war tank design worldwide. Its impact extended beyond technical specifications. It embodied Soviet industrial determination and helped turn the tide on the Eastern Front. The T-34-85, introduced in 1944, addressed the original T-34's firepower limitations against newer German tanks like the Tiger and Panther. The upgraded design featured a powerful 85mm ZSS-53 gun, a larger three-man turret improving crew efficiency, and enhanced armor protection. Weighing approximately 32 tons with a five-man crew, it maintained the T-34's excellent mobility while dramatically improving combat effectiveness. Over 22,000 units were produced during the war, with production continuing into the 1950s. The T-34-85 proved highly effective in the final campaigns against Germany and saw extensive post-war service in numerous conflicts, including Korea and the Middle East, cementing the T-34's legendary status worldwide. The T-44 medium tank, introduced in late 1944, represented a significant evolution in Soviet tank design, despite its limited World War II service. Weighing 32 tons with a four-man crew and mounting an 85mm gun, the T-44's revolutionary feature was its transversely mounted engine, allowing a lower profile and more internal space without increasing overall dimensions. This innovative layout, combined with improved torsion bar suspension and thicker armor, created a more compact and better protected vehicle than the T-34-85. Only about 1,900 were produced, arriving too late for significant wartime impact. However, the T-44's design principles directly influenced the legendary T-54-55 series, making it a crucial stepping stone in Soviet tank evolution. The KV-1 Clement Voroshilov heavy tank entered service in 1939, named after the Soviet defense commissar. Weighing 45 tons with a 5-man crew and mounting a 76.2 mm gun, the KV-1 featured armor up to 90 mm thick, nearly invulnerable to most German anti-tank weapons in 1941. Early war encounters saw single KV-1 second holding entire German units at bay. Approximately 5,200 units were produced through 1943. However, its excessive weight caused mechanical reliability issues and poor mobility, while its gun remained unchanged as German armor improved. Despite these limitations, the KV-1 bought crucial time during desperate 1941-1942 battles and influenced heavy tank development, leading to the improved KV-85 and IS series. The KV-2 assault tank, developed in 1940, mounted a massive 152 mm M10 howitzer in an enormous box-like turret atop the KV-1 chassis. Weighing approximately 52 tons with a 6-man crew, it was specifically designed to destroy fortifications during the Winter War against Finland. The huge turret, standing over 12 feet tall, made the KV-2 instantly recognizable but created severe limitations. The heavy turret could jam if the hull was on uneven ground, and the vehicle's height made it conspicuous. Only about 200 were produced. While devastating against fortifications, the KV-2 proved too cumbersome for mobile warfare, suffering heavy losses in 1941, primarily to mechanical failures and fuel shortages. The KV-1 S for Skorostnoy, meaning fast, entered production in 1942 to address the original KV-1's mobility problems. Engineers reduced weight to 42.5 tons by thinning armor and using a smaller, lower turret, while installing a more powerful engine improved speed to 43 kilometers per hour. The 5-man crew operated a 76.2 mm gun. Approximately 1,370 units were produced through 1943. While the KV-1S offered better mobility and reliability, the reduced armor made it vulnerable to improved German anti-tank weapons, partially defeating the heavy tank's purpose. This compromise solution proved transitional, leading designers to develop the upgunned KV-85, which balanced protection and firepower more effectively while maintaining acceptable mobility. The KV-85 heavy tank emerged in 1943 as a rapid response to German Tiger and Panther tanks. Mounting the powerful 85 mm D5 Trillions gun in a new turret on the KV-1S chassis, it provided significantly improved anti-tank capability while maintaining the mobility improvements of the KV-1S. Weighing 46 tons with a 4-man crew, approximately 130 units were produced between September and December 1943. The KV-85 represented a transitional design, quickly superseded by the superior IS-1 and IS-2 heavy tanks which offered better armor protection and the same armament on a more refined platform. Despite limited production, the KV-85 provided valuable combat experience and proved the effectiveness of the 85 mm gun against German armor. The IS-1 Iosif Stalin heavy tank entered service in late 1943, representing a complete redesign rather than modification of the KV series. Initially armed with an 85 mm gun, it weighed 44 tons with a 4-man crew and featured improved sloped armor up to 120 mm thick, offering better protection than the KV series at similar weight. The lower profile and better weight distribution improved mobility significantly. However, only about 107 IS-1 second were produced before production shifted to the IS-2 with its superior 122 mm gun. The IS-1 proved the soundness of the new heavy tank design concept, establishing the foundation for the more famous IS-2 and subsequent Soviet heavy tank development through the Cold War era. The IS-2 heavy tank, introduced in late 1943, became the Soviet Union's most formidable heavy tank of World War II. Weighing 46 tons with a four-man crew, its massive 122mm D-25 T-gun could destroy any German tank, including Tigers and Panthers, with a single hit. Armor up to 120mm thick, heavily sloped, provided excellent protection. Approximately 3,800 units were produced through 1945. The IS-2's powerful gun required two-piece ammunition, slowing its rate of fire, but its devastating striking power more than compensated. It spearheaded offensives into Germany, particularly effective in urban combat. The IS-2 remained in service for decades post-war and saw action in numerous conflicts worldwide. The IS-3 heavy tank, completed in May 1945, arrived too late for World War II combat, but revolutionized post-war heavy tank design. Weighing 46 tons, with a four-man crew, and mounting the proven 122mm gun. Its most distinctive feature was the revolutionary pike-nose frontal armor configuration, with heavily sloped plates meeting at a sharp angle. This design maximized armor effectiveness against shaped charge weapons. The hemispherical cast turret, nicknamed Frying Pan, further improved protection. Western observers were shocked when IS-3 seconds appeared in the 1945 Berlin Victory Parade. Despite early mechanical problems, the IS-3's armor layout influenced tank design worldwide throughout the Cold War, establishing principles used in subsequent Soviet and international heavy tank development. The T-54-55 series, introduced in 1947 and refined through the 1950s, became the most widely produced tank in history, with over 100,000 units manufactured. Weighing approximately 36 tons with a four-man crew, it mounted a powerful 100mm D-10 Trillions gun, thick-sloped armor, and a reliable diesel engine. The design combined the T-44's innovations with improved firepower and protection. Exported to over 50 countries, the T-54, T-55 saw combat in virtually every major conflict from the 1950s onward, including Korea, Middle East wars, and Vietnam. Its simple, robust design, ease of maintenance, and effectiveness made it an icon of Cold War armor that remains in limited service today. The IS-4 heavy tank entered limited Soviet service in 1947 as a heavily armored successor to the IS-3. Weighing a massive 60 tons with a four-man crew, it featured armor up to 160mm thick and mounted the 122mm D-25 Trillions gun. Approximately 250 units were produced between 1947 to 1949. Despite its formidable protection, the IS-4's excessive weight caused severe mechanical reliability issues, poor mobility, and logistical challenges. Its weight exceeded most bridge capacities, limiting strategic deployment. These problems led to the IS-4 being relegated to static defensive positions in the Soviet Far East. The design represented the practical limits of heavy tank development, influencing the shift toward more balanced medium tank designs. The IS-7 heavy tank, developed between 1945 to 1947, represented the ultimate expression of Soviet heavy tank design philosophy. Weighing an enormous 68 tons with a five-man crew, it mounted a powerful 130mm S-70 gun and featured revolutionary armor up to 210mm thick with advanced sloped configurations. The IS-7 could reach 60 km per hour, remarkable for its weight. Only 6 prototypes were built, as the design proved too heavy, complex, and expensive for mass production. Bridge limitations, transmission problems, and ammunition supply issues doomed the project. Though never entering service, the IS-7's innovations in armor design and automotive engineering influenced subsequent Soviet tank development, particularly the T-10 heavy tank series. The T-10 heavy tank, introduced in 1953 and originally designated IS-8, became the Soviet Union's last heavy tank series. Weighing 50 tons with a four-man crew, it mounted a powerful 122mm M62T2 gun with improved ballistics over earlier IS tanks. Approximately 8,000 units were produced through 1966. The upgraded T to 10M 1957, featured improved armor, NBC protection, night vision equipment, and a two-plane gun stabilizer. Both variants served primarily in breakthrough and fire support roles. As main battle tank concepts evolved, emphasizing mobility and firepower in lighter platforms, the heavy tank doctrine became obsolete. The T-10 series was gradually phased out by the 1970s, ending the Soviet heavy tank lineage. The PT-76, Plavayushki tank, floating tank, entered Soviet service in 1952 as a specialized amphibious reconnaissance vehicle. Weighing 14 tons with a three-man crew, it mounted a 76.2 mm D-56 Trillions gun and featured a boat-like hull enabling water crossings via hydrojets without preparation. Its thin armor prioritized buoyancy over protection. Over 12,000 units were produced through 1967, with extensive exports worldwide. The PT-76 saw combat in Vietnam, Middle Eastern conflicts, and numerous other wars, proving effective in riverine and marshy terrain. While vulnerable to modern anti-tank weapons, its amphibious capability filled a unique niche. The PT-76 influenced amphibious vehicle design globally and remained in service with various nations into the 21st century. The T-62 1961 and T-64 1963 represented divergent approaches to Soviet main battle tank development during the Cold War. The T-62, weighing 40 tons with a four-man crew, introduced the world's first smoothbore tank gun, the 115 mm U-5Ts, offering superior armor penetration through fin-stabilized ammunition. An evolutionary design based on the T-55, approximately 20,000 were produced for widespread service and export. Conversely, the T-64 was revolutionary. Weighing 38 tons with only a three-man crew, it featured an autoloader, composite armor, 125 mm smoothbore gun, and advanced fire control systems. Around 13,000 units served primarily elite Soviet forces. While the T-62 proved reliable but outdated, the sophisticated T-64 suffered reliability issues. Both pioneered technologies, smoothbore guns and autoloaders, that became fundamental to modern tank design, influencing the T-72, T-80, and subsequent generations. The T-72 main battle tank, introduced in 1973, became one of history's most prolific and influential tank designs. Weighing 41 tons with a three-man crew utilizing an autoloader, it mounted a 125 mm smoothbore gun and featured composite armor protection. Designed as a simpler, more reliable alternative to the sophisticated T-64, the T-72 prioritized ease of production and maintenance. With licensed production worldwide, extensive combat in Middle Eastern conflicts, Afghanistan, Chechnya, and countless other wars. Despite export variants suffering heavy losses against Western forces, continuously modernized versions remain the backbone of Russian and numerous other armies today. The T-80 main battle tank, introduced in 1976, became the world's first production tank powered by a gas turbine engine. Weighing 42 tons with a three-man crew and autoloader, it mounted a 125 mm smoothbore gun and featured advanced composite armor. The gas turbine provided exceptional power-to-weight ratio, rapid acceleration, and reliable cold weather starting, though fuel consumption was significantly higher than diesel engines. Approximately 10,000 units were produced through the 1990s. The T-80 equipped elite Soviet units and saw combat in Chechnya, where urban warfare exposed vulnerabilities. Various upgrades, including the T-80U and T-80, BVM, improved protection and fire control. The T-80 remains in Russian service, representing a unique technological path in tank development. The T-90 main battle tank entered Russian service in 1992, representing an extensive modernization of the proven T-72 design. Weighing 46 tons with a three-man crew and autoloader, it mounts a 125 mm smoothbore gun capable of firing both conventional ammunition and anti-tank guided missiles. The T-90 features Contact 5 explosive reactive armor, advanced fire control systems, laser warning receivers, and the Stora active protection system. Designed as a cost-effective alternative to the more expensive T-80, approximately 5,000 units have been produced for Russian forces and export customers including India. Combat-proven in Syria and other conflicts, continuously upgraded variants like the T-90 Million's proriv incorporate improved armor, optics, and digital systems, maintaining Russia's armored capabilities into the 21st century. The T-90 main battle tank entered Russian service in 1992, representing an extensive modernization of the proven T-72 design. Weighing 46 tons with a 3-man crew and autoloader, it mounts a 125mm smoothbore gun capable of firing both conventional ammunition and anti-tank guided missiles. The T-90 features Contact 5 explosive reactive armor, advanced fire control systems, laser warning receivers, and the Stora active protection system. Designed as a cost-effective alternative to the more expensive T-80, approximately 5,000 units have been produced for Russian forces and export customers including India. Combat-proven in Syria and other conflicts, continuously upgraded variants like the T-90 Million's proriv incorporate improved armor, optics, and digital systems, maintaining Russia's armored capabilities into the 21st century.